We begin the Gemara on the bottom of the Yomud of Daf Dalid Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom of the page where it says Tanan. So the Gemara is continuing to bring from various places proofs regarding the arguments between Rabba and Rava. Why does a shliach that delivers a get from Medina Sayyam have to testify b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam? The conclusion of the Gemara was that everybody agrees to the reason that Rava says, which is that because ein edim mitzuyin l'kaimai, witnesses are not available to come and verify the signatures because the get is coming from a big distance, so therefore we have to have the shliach testify about the validity of the signatures in advance. But Rabba adds another reason. He's also concerned about the lishma of the get. That was the conclusion of the Gemara. So the Gemara now brings from a Mishnah later here in the Masechta. Tanan, the Mishnah later says, Amei vi-get me Medina Sayyam. The Shliach brings a get from Medina Sayyam, from Atzaret Yisrael, V'einoi yochel loima b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam. And he can't testify b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam. Now why he can't testify, the Gemara is going to explain in a moment. So what do? Im yesh alavedim, so if there are witnesses that know the signatures, yiskayim b'chaismav, let them come and verify the signatures, and that's enough. The get will be kosher. So the question was asked about this. What does the Mishnah mean to say when it says he can't say, why can't he say? If you're going to say the case here is that he's a deaf mute, so he can't communicate. But the question is, is a deaf mute an individual that could be a shliach, that could deliver a get? Vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, everybody is kosher to deliver the get, but a cheresh shaita or a cotton which do not have das, they don't have the awareness to be able to become a shliach, so they can't deliver a get. So we can't be speaking about a cheresh. Now Tosfos over here says, why would the Gemara not want to say that we're speaking about a ilay, just mute, not deaf mute, but he's still a bardas, he could deliver a get. Tosfos says in the lashon of the Mishnah, it's not mashma so. Okay, it's not 100% clear exactly what Tosfos is saying here, but Tosfos brings up this question. So the Gemara now explains, so what is the pshat in the Mishnah when it says ve'eini yachol? Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef says, hacha b'may askinon. What is the case of this Mishnah? The husband gave the get to the shliach when this shliach was still fully normal, sane, and he was able to be a shliach to deliver the get. But what happened was he delivered the get, he gave it to the isha, and the moment he wanted to say boom, he lost his senses, or he became deaf mute and he can't say anymore anything. That's the pshat in this Mishnah. Says the Gemara, going back to what the Mishnah says, according to Rava, the Mishnah is understood. The Mishnah says if you can't say b'fanei nechtam, so what do? Verify the signatures, and that's good enough. So that's understood according to Rava. Our only concern here is about the validity of the signatures. But according to Rabbi, that said that there's an additional concern that maybe the get was written shalei lishma, kashya, so that what the Mishnah says is a question, why would it be enough to validate the signatures? That doesn't prove that the get was written lishma. So how could the Mishnah say that that's enough in such a case? Answers the Gemara, hacha b'may askinon. You know what this Mishnah here is speaking about? La'achar shalomdu. After the situation in Medina Sayyam changed, people became more learned, and they know the halacha of lishma, and there's no concern whatsoever that someone may find a get in the garbage and use that get for his own gedishin, as Rashi explained before. People all know the halacha, and nobody's going to do this. So the situation changed, and here, after the situation changed, is when the Mishnah said that validating the signatures is good enough. But if that's the case, that now lishma is not a concern anymore, so yachol mami. So if so, in a case where the shliach is able to say b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam, why should that be necessary? If you have edim here, and it's possible to validate the signatures, so shouldn't the validation of the signatures be accepted even without testifying b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam, which includes also a testimony about lishma? Why is the Mishnah here saying if eina yachol, then validating the signatures is accepted? If this Mishnah is coming to tell us, this halacha, that acha shalomdu, it's not necessary anymore to verify the lishma. You just have to verify the signatures. So then in any situation, you should always say that you don't need that edus about lishma. Answers the Gemara, no. Even after they learned the halacha, this gzeira shema yachze davar lekukule. The Chacham did not uproot this takana completely because they said it may go back to the way it was before. The fact is that in Medina Sayyam there aren't proper yeshivas and there aren't proper batidinim. So yeah, there was a time period when this Mishnah was written that people knew the halacha, but because it is Medina Sayyam where the infrastructure is not there for learning, so it may go back to the way it was before. So Chachamim left the takana in place. So the question comes back. So if they did leave the takana in place, so even in a case where the person now can't speak and he can't say b'fanei nichtav, why would it be enough just to validate the signatures? Answers the Gemara, no, this case is different. What this Mishnah is saying is pikeyach v'nischadish, as we explained before. This case is talking about a Mishnah where the shliach was fully sane, and right after he gave the get is when he became a deaf mute and he can't talk anymore. Such a kind of case, milsa de leishchiche. This is very uncommon to happen. For such a kind of uncommon case, the fact that Chachamim left their takana in place does not apply over here. An ordinary case of a shliach delivering a get, Chachamim left their takana in place, even though now people may know the halacha because they're concerned that it could shamayach zedavar l'kukulei. And the Paiskim actually say that this concern of shamayach zedavar l'kukulei happened. Today, the average person, we don't consider the average person to know the halacha of lishma. Okay, but in a case which is uncommon, so for that I say over here the takana does not apply, and therefore if you can't say b'fanei nechtam, it's enough just to validate the signatures. So now you're telling me this new concept that in situations of a get being delivered, which is very uncommon, that in such a case the get, you do not have to say b'fanei nechtam, but if so, what's if the wife herself, she delivers her own get, and the husband tells her, you deliver your get, but you're not divorced yet. You're not divorced until you bring the get to Eretz Yisrael. That's not a common thing. Tanan, and regarding such a case, it says in the Mishnah, Ha'isha atzma mevia gita. The wife herself can deliver her get. But the only thing is, she has to say, she has to testify about the get, that it was written and signed in front of her, just like anybody else. But the question is, in uncommon cases, you just said the takana does not apply. Answers the Gemara, no, they still applied it in such a case. Shaloi tachlik b'shlichus. They don't want to start making distinctions between a get that's being delivered in one way or another, because then it's going to become confusing. So Rashi explains, in every case of a get being delivered, they still apply the takana. The case that we mentioned before about when Eini Yachol, when the person can't talk, so over there, the point is not that they did not apply their takana. The takana would apply, but he just can't talk. So there's no option. There's no option of fulfilling the takana. So over there, the verification of the signatures are good enough. But the Gemara asks from another scenario, but if so, Baal Nami, how about the husband himself? You're telling me that we don't want to make any distinctions in how the get is being delivered. You always have to testify b'fanei nechtam. So how about if the husband himself delivers the get from Chutz La'aretz? Allah, Tanya, why did we learn in a Braisa? Hu atzma shevi gitoi. The husband himself delivers his get. He does not have to testify that it was written and signed in front of him. Why not? Why shouldn't we say, don't make any distinctions, however the get is delivered, even if he himself brings it, he should have to say. Answers the Gemara, no, the husband is different. What was the reason that Chachamim said that you must testify that the get was written and signed properly, and even lishma, or we have this gzeira of shamayach zedavar l'kula, and you have to say testimony about this get. Dilma osi baal ma'araru pasale. The concern is that the husband may come and challenge the validity of the get. That's really what our concern is about. And the Mefarshim say that here you see that the concern we speak about before in the Gemara, even according to Rabbah, about the get being written shalei lishma, it's not really a concern about the shalei lishma itself. And even according to Rashi, at least at this point in the Gemara, perhaps over here, So once it's lamdu already and it's just shema yachs l'kol kuloi, so at this point everybody will agree that we're not really concerned anymore about the kashrus of the get itself. What are we concerned about at this point? We're concerned that the husband may come and challenge the get. The husband may show up and say, this get was written shalai lishma. That's really what the takana now is all about. If that's what it is, but now minkat nakat lebi yade, if the husband himself is holding the get in his hands, he's bringing it to give to the isha. So are we afraid that anybody's going to challenge the validity of this get? Why should we be afraid of such a thing? So therefore, in such a case, there's no reason in the first place to say b'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechtam. Tashema, going back now to the machlokes of Rabbe and Rava. So here, let's bring a raya from the following shaila that was asked. The boy minei Shmuel mirav Huna. Shmuel asked a question from Rav Huna. Shnayim shehiviu get, two people that deliver a get. Medina Sayam from overseas. So this was mentioned before in the Gemara, a situation where you have two shluchim. So the Brisa says, so these shluchim, even though they're two, they also have to, so this is asked actually as a question. Do they have to testify that it was written and signed in front of us? Or perhaps because they're two, so they don't have to. Amalei, so Ravona answered, because they're two, they don't have to testify anything. And he added a svara. Now that you have two here, these two are believed to come and tell us that this woman was divorced some other time. You don't even need a get. They can just come and testify that she was divorced, and they would be believed to say that. So for sure, they're believed to bring this get, and we don't have to additionally have them testify about b'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechtam. That was the conclusion. So the Gemara asks, okay, according to Rava, we understand. If the whole concern is about the validity of the signatures, so once you have two eidim here, so there's no reason to verify anything further. But according to Rabbe, Kashya, this is a problem, because according to Rabbe, there's another concern that the get may have been written shalei lishma. It doesn't make a difference if it's 1, 2, or 10 people that are delivering the get. If there's a concern that people may not know the halacha, or there's a gzeira that people may not know the halacha, so then the get is written shalei lishma, there's a problem. So again, the Gemara goes through the whole thing again. So the Gemara here says, over here, when we say that once two deliver the get, there's no other issue. It's speaking about once people learned, people know the halacha of the Shema. So there's no reason to verify anything further once there's two eidim. Frek the Gemara, but if that's the case, chad nami. So then why wouldn't we say the same thing even if one person is delivering the get? If one person is delivering the get, and you're going to have to say that the Gemara's question over here is, in a situation where the only thing that we're trying to figure out is the validity of the lishma or not, but the validity of the signatures is not an issue. Let's say the get is being brought within the same country. So in such a case, even by one, I should say that besides the validity of the signatures, there's nothing else to find out about. So why are we saying that only in a case when two bring the get? Answers the Gemara, like we said before, Gzeira Shem Yachzer Double L'Kol Kulai. They still kept the Gzeira in place to verify the Lishma of the get, because it may return to the way it was before. So again, the Gemara goes through this. Ihachi, if so, Beitrei Nami, let's say the same thing if two bring the get. Why don't we keep the Gzeira in place there as well to verify the Lishma of the get? Answers the Gemara, Beitrei Demaise Gittin, Milsa de Leishchiche, two shluchim delivering a get is very unusual. There's no reason to have two shluchim to deliver a get. Well, Milsa de Leishchiche, because it's an uncommon thing, Lagos Barabanan. So here, the Gzeira of the Rabbanan does not apply. Frek the Gemara, V'ha'isha de Leishchiche, a woman delivering her own get, and she's not divorced with it yet until she brings it to Eretz Yisrael. And so that's uncommon. Utanan, and the Mishnah later says, "Isha atzma mevia gita." A woman could bring her own get. She does have to testify that the get was written and signed in front of her, even though it's an uncommon thing. Again, the Gemara answers, we don't want to make a distinction between one shlichus and another. Frek the Gemara, if so, Baal Nami, when it comes to the husband himself, Alama Tanya. What did we learn regarding the husband himself? That he does not have to testify that it was written and signed in front of him. Why not? We don't want to make any distinctions. So Taisa says that this svara that the Gemara says that we don't want to make a distinction means we don't make a distinction when there's one person delivering a get. When two are delivering a get, that's not called a distinction. That's a totally different thing. Two shluchim are delivering a get. Over there, you don't have to say b'fanei nechtam. But for one, we don't want to make a distinction. So why for the husband are we making this distinction that he does not have to say b'fanei nechtam? Answers the Gemara, like we said before, why do you have to testify that it was written inside in front of you? We're concerned that the husband may come along and challenge the validity of the get. So we want to preempt that. We want to have the get verified in advance so he shouldn't cause any problems. If the husband himself is holding the get and delivering it on his own, should we be concerned that he would come and challenge the validity of the get? Why would he do such a thing? He himself is delivering the get. Therefore, he doesn't have to say. Tashema, another braise, a raya to the argument of Rabbe and Rave. Why do you have to say b'fanei nechtam? So the braise says, "I maybe get me Medina Sayam." The shliach delivered the get from Medina Sayam, v'nosni la, and he gave it to the woman. And he forgot, he didn't testify that it was written inside in front of him. So what happens now? So if the get was verified, if the signatures were verified, then the get is kosher, even though they did not say but if the signatures were not verified, posel. Then the get's going to be posel. And the Braisa continues and says, Hevei, it should be said about this halacha that you must say b'fanei nechtam lo yehutzruchu loyma b'fanei nechtam lahachmir aleha. This requirement or this takana to say b'fanei nechtam was not here as a stringency, meaning in addition to the verification of the signatures. That you would think that even after you verify the signatures, in addition, you still have to testify, the shliach still has to testify that it was written and signed in front of him. That's not what it was said for. It's actually only as a leniency. If you did not verify the signatures, so then you have the takana that the shliach must say b'fanei nechtam. But once you verify the signatures, there's no reason for the shliach to testify about anything. That's the Braisa. Says the Gemara, according to Rave, this Braisa is perfectly understood. The Braisa is saying that the main thing we're focusing on is the signatures. Once you verify the signatures, there's nothing else to be machmir about. But according to Rabbe, this is a problem, because according to Rabbe, even after the signatures are verified, Rabbe before said that even if two would bring, it doesn't matter. There's an additional concern of shaloi l'shma. Right? So why over here aren't we saying that there's an additional chumrah of shaloi l'shma? So again, the Gemara answers like we said before. Hocha b'mayaskina. What is this Braisa speaking about? Lacha shalamdu. The shma is not a concern anymore because people have learned the halacha of about l'shma. Fragt the Gemara, but didn't we say Gzeire Shema Yachzeh Davar L'Kul Kulai? Chachamim kept the takana in place because it may go back to the way it was before, that people will not know the halacha of Lishma. So even after they learned, the halacha is still kept in place. Answers the Gemara here. What this Braisa is speaking about is Keshenisis. This woman received her get, and the signatures were verified. They did not say b'fanei nechtam, but the signatures were verified, and she went and got married. So yes, even though Chachamim kept their takana in place, and they were machmir about this, but not once she already got married to someone else. Once she got married, in such a case, I say that because of this gzeira, we're not going to tell her to leave her new marriage. Dr. Gemara, how does that fit into the words of the Braisa? If so, what did the Braisa say? Hevei, it should be said, that the testimony of b'fanei nechtam is not considered to be a stringency after they already validated the signatures. It's only a leniency if they did not validate the signatures. Only then they have to testify b'fanei nechtam. That's what the Braisa says. Asks the Gemara, but now you're saying different. Mishom denisasu. Now you're saying that the only reason we do not keep our takana in place is because she got married, so we don't force her to leave her marriage. But otherwise, we would be machmer, that even after the signatures were verified, you still have to say b'fanei nechtam. So that's not what the Braisa says. So the Gemara answers, no, we could put this into the words of the Braisa. Hachi kama, this is how you read the Braisa. If you would think that we should take this takana of a so far. We should be so stringent about this that we would even force her to leave her new marriage. So on this, the Brisa says, it was said, we're not machmir to this extent to cause her to leave her marriage. It's only to be makel in the beginning. The point of the takana was that she shouldn't need to rely on Eidim to verify the signatures. But we can rely on the one shliach to testify. But if that shliach did not testify, and we verified the signatures, and she already got married, so we're not going to force her to leave the marriage, even though there's really another takana here that and people may not know the halacha of lishma, but once she's married, we're not concerned about that. And the Gemara explains why. What's the whole reason right now that there could be a concern over here? The husband may show up and he may challenge the get and say that it's pasul. And if the husband shows up and challenges the get and says it's pasul, so then you're going to be forced to kasher the get. You're going to be forced to prove that it's kasher. The husband's going to come and say the get was written shalei lishma. What are you going to do now? And the shliach did not testify in advance about this b'fan nichtav b'fan nechtam. Right. In other words, what the Gemara is saying is at this point we're not really concerned about the shalei lishma of the get itself because we already established it's la'acha shalom. Do people know the halacha? Chachamim though said that because people may not know the halacha, it may return to that situation. So therefore, Chachamim was still concerned. What was their concern though? They basically said that the husband, that the original takana, that the husband may show up and challenge the validity of the get, that they kept in place. So if so, over here in this case, hashta baal loika ma'ara. Now she went and got married, and the husband did not show up. Even after she got married, the husband didn't show up to challenge the kashas of the get. We should be stringent and sort of take the place of the husband and be ma'arer and challenge and say, well, this get may be pasul, and even after she got married, she should have to leave her marriage. There's no reason to say that. The fact is now people know the halacha. So we know that the get was written lishma. So there's no reason for us to passel this get on that basis if the get was already the signatures were verified, and we know really that the get was written lishma at this point. Okay, so now the Gemara brings that really this argument of Rabba and Rava beplukte the Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabba and Rava are arguing in the same machlokes that Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi once argued about. Chadamar, because one of them said, like Rabba, lefishem b'kiyim lishma, that the point here is that people may not know the halacha of lishma. And one of them said that the reason is lefishen edim mitzuyin l'kaima, that you may have to verify the signatures and you won't have the edim available to verify them. Exactly the machlokes of Rabba and Rava. Says the Gemara Testayim, let us prove that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Hu Da'amar, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, he's the one that said lefishen edim b'kiyim lishma, that you have to verify the kashrus of the get for the fact that it was written lishma. Because here's what happened. Rab Shimon bar Abba Aisi Gittin lekamei the Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rab Shimon bar Abba was a shliach. He delivered a get from Medina Sayam and he brought it in front of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. V'amalei, and he asked Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Tzrichne lemeima b'fanu nichtav b'fanu nechtam oiloi. Do I have to testify about this get that it was written and signed in front of me or not? V'amalei loy tzriches. So he told him, no, it's not necessary. This whole takana was only in earlier generations. Then people didn't know the halacha of lishma. But in later generations, the bekiyin lishma, where people know the halacha of lishma, so it's not necessary anymore to testify this. In other words, he didn't hold of any additional gzeira after that. Once people learned the halacha, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said it's not necessary to testify anymore about the kashrus of the lishma of the get. So to Stayim, this is a clear raya that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was the one that said that the reason is for the lishma. But the Gemara asks on this, v'tizbere, could this be true? Rashi here actually says that really there's no reason to be guided as the word v'tizbere. Usually v'tizbere would mean that we're going to refute what we just said. But the Gemara is not really refuting 100% what it just said. The fact that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was the one that was concerned about lishma, that's clear. But the Gemara has another question on this. And what's the question? We proved before that even the Rabba, the opinion that says that the reason to say is because we need to verify that the get was written lishma, but he also agrees to what Rabba says that you have to verify the signatures. So if so, how could Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi tell Rab Shimon bar Abba that came to and delivered a get, Now everyone knows the halacha of l'shma, so there's no reason to testify anymore. What's with the signatures? For that, you still have to testify. Another question, what happened to the point we said before? That even after the people learned the halacha, but we said that Chachamim kept the takana in place, does Rabbi Shua ben Levi disagree with that? Ella says the Gemara, Rab Shimon bar Abba, in a Shachrina have a bad day. The truth is, Rab Shimon bar Abba did not deliver this get from Chutz La'aretz alone. There was a second shliach that was along with him. 2 shluchim came and delivered the get. But now, when 2 shluchim deliver the get, so then, as far as the signatures is concerned, you don't have to say because of that, as we learned before already, you have 2 edim. And also, the Gzeir Shem Yachsa Davar L'Kul we learned before, does not apply when you have 2, because it's an uncommon thing. Milsa D'Leshchicha Chacham not Geyser. And the Gemara explains, the fact that in the story before, it doesn't mention the fact that he came with a second shliach. The reason is Mishum Kvaydai de Rab Shimon. Because of the honor of Rab Shimon, so he was such a prominent person, so to say that he came together with another person to make him equal to someone else, it doesn't want to put the story that way. He was the one that was really sort of carrying the whole get and the whole responsibility. The other person came along with him, so it's not mentioned, but that's the story that happened. He came together with another shliach. Impossible, right? He would for sure do that. Okay, now the Gemara comes back to something that was mentioned before on Daf Gimel. When you give the get, when the shliach delivers the get and gives it to the Isha, in front of how many people does he have to give it? We learned the machlekes about this. B'fnei kamenais law, in front of how many people does he have to give her the get? Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Chanina argued about this. Chad Omar, one opinion was b'fnei shnayim, has to be given in front of 2 edim. Chad Omar, another opinion is b'fnei shloisha, has to be given in front of 3, which is a bezdin. Says the Gemara, Testayim, I'll prove to you that Rabbi Yechanan Udama b'fnei shnayim. Rabbi Yechanan was the one that said that 2 is enough. The Rav bar Rav Chisda Aisi Gittin lekamei Rabbi Yechanan. Rav bar Rav Chisda delivered a get in front of Rabbi Yechanan. V'amalei Rabbi Yechanan told him, Zil havla ba'pitrei. Go and give the get to the Isha in front of 2, in front of Eidim. That's it. So what do we? And you'll say to the 2 people that the get was written and signed in front of me. So Testayim, this is a clear ayah that Rabbi Yechanan is the one that said that the get has to be given in front of 2, not 3. Now, the Gemara suggests, Leime, shall we say, that the argument here, whether it should be given in front of 2 or 3, they're arguing in the same machlokes of why. What are you saying when you testify before the argument of Rabba and Rava? The one that says that it's enough to give it in front of 2, Kasavar, he says, his opinion is, the only concern we have over here is to verify that the get was written Lishma. So for that, it's enough to give it in front of 2. You don't need a bezdin for that. As long as the shliach testifies in front of 2 edim, and then later, if the husband will come and make any problems, we have 2 edim that know that this person testified that the get was written Lishma. So that would be enough. There's no reason for a bezdin here. But the one that says that it has to be given in front of 3, a bezdin, the reason is kasavar, he holds that the problem is that we have to verify the signatures. And because we don't have the edim here. And so Rashi explains, when you verify signatures, that's what's called a kiyum, a verification of this document. And the halacha by any verification of a document is, as the Gemara says in Ksubis, it must be done with a bezdin. So that's why you're verifying the signatures of the get, you need a bezdin. The Gemara doesn't accept this explanation for a few reasons. Could you explain the machlekes this way? Hamid Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, before in the story brought before here, what did we prove? That Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar lefi shein bekiyin l'shma. So before, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi and Rabbi Yechanan were arguing about why you have to say b'fanech nechtam. And we proved that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says the reason is because people don't know the halacha of l'shma. So if that's the case, so we know that Rabbi Yechanan, which argued with him, Amar, he said, that the reason is because we need to verify the signatures, because the Edom are not around. And now, if so, over here, if you're saying that the opinion that says that you have to verify the signatures, you must have a bezdin for that, like every verification of a document, so how would Rabbi Yechanan be the one to say that saying it in front of 2 Edom without a bezdin would be good enough? Another question, as we said already before, Rabba Islay de Rava. Rabba that says that the reason is that we have to verify the Lishma, but he also agrees to what Rava said, that we have to verify the signatures. So everybody agrees Everybody should agree that you need a bezdin to verify the signatures. So what is the explanation of the argument, whether you need 3 or only 2? Ella, the Gemara suggests, everybody agrees that the reason over here is that you must verify the signatures because the Eidim are not around. But for Hacha, the argument over here is as follows. B'shliach nasa aid. This shliach is delivering the get. He also becomes the aid to testify about the validity of the get. But now the question is, just like I say that the shliach can be the aid, do I say further that the aid nasa dayan? Maybe this shliach himself could serve as the 3rd judge. Now you have 2 aidim and he's going to be the 3rd. Kamiflagi, that's what they're arguing about. The one that says that 2 people are enough, so his opinion is shliach nasa eid. Just like the shliach can testify about this get, ve'ed nasa dayan. So too, this shliach himself, which is the aid, is also one of the 3 which serves as a dayan for the validity of the get. You need a bezdin to validate the signature, so he's going to be one of the dayanim as well. But a man dama b'fnei gimel. The opinion that says that you must have 3 besides the shliach, Kesavar, he holds shliach nasa eid. Yes, the shliach is the one that testifies; he becomes an aid. But ve'en eid nasa dayan. An aid cannot be one of the 3 for the verification of the signatures. Okay, but the Gemara asks on this explanation, but v'hakaim alon, we know in the Gemara Ksubis that the halacha is that bid rabbanan, when it comes to a matter which is only midrabanan, like over here, we're dealing with a takana of b'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechtam, which is an institution midrabanan. So in such a case, the halacha is the aid nasa dayan, that an aid can become a dayan. Only minat Torah, when you need a bezdin minat Torah, Rashi gives the example, let's say by Kiddush HaChodesh, so then the aid that's testifying about seeing the new moon, he can't be part of the bezdin that's Mekadesh the Chodesh. But over here, midrabanan, it could. Everybody agrees to that. So this can't be the basis of the argument. Ella says the Gemara, hacha b'ha kamiflagi. So rather here, the argument is as follows. The Mar Sovar, one opinion over here is, even the Isha, ksheira lavi is a get. Even a woman could deliver her own get. So zimnin the ma'isile itza, possibly the woman will deliver the get. The samchi Allah, and we're going to rely now on this woman to be part of the bezdin, whether the Isha herself that's getting divorced or any woman that delivers this get, that we're going to rely on her being part of this bezdin, and we can't rely on an Isha to be part of this bezdin. The Isha could say eidos, that's a special leniency regarding testifying b'fanei nechtam, that even an Isha that's usually pasal eidos could be an aid to testify. But we don't carry that leniency further to say that she could be part of this bezdin. We're verifying a document, and for that you need a proper bezdin. So therefore, we're never going to allow the shliach to be part of the bezdin, because then people may come to say that even in a case where the shliach is a puzzle for a bezdin, will also be used for the bezdin, and that's a problem. But the idach, the other opinion, argues and says, no, it's Rabbi Yechon, he says, Isha made the yadi. If it's a woman that's delivering the get, everybody knows that a woman cannot be used as part of a bezdin. People are not going to come to rely on her. But in a regular case, where you have a regular shliach that's kosher to be part of the bezdin, over there you could have 2 people and combine the shliach to the bezdin. Over there it's not a problem. Tanya kavasei Rabbi Yechon. We learned in the Braisa, like Rabbi Yechon's opinion, that 2 is enough to say in front of them b'fanei nechtam. The Braisa really discusses a different aspect of this halacha, but in the Braisa we see, like Rabbi Yechanan said, Hamevi get medina sayam, a person brings the get from overseas, v'nosnei law, and he gave it to the Isha, v'lo yom Allah, b'fanei nechtam, and he forgot to testify that it was written and signed in front of him. What happens now? Now this woman went and got married. So before we had a Braisa that said, well, if you verify the signature, that's good enough. But what if you cannot verify the signature? So what happens now? She went and got married, and she maybe even had children. Yaitzi, the new husband, has to let her go. V'havlat mamzer, and the child is even going to be a mamzer because the previous get is not a valid get. So she got married. She's an eishes ish, and she got married to another person, and the children are mamzerim. That's the halacha of a woman that gives birth while she's married, while she's an eishes ish. Divrei Rab Meir. This is Rab Meir's opinion. So very stringent about this. The Chachamim say, "Ein avlad mamzer." The child will not be a mamzer. Because there's something to do about this. Kate said yasa. So what do you do now? Yitlenu heimeno. Let the shliach take the get back from the isha, and v'yachzor v'yitnenu. Let him give it to her again, b'fnei shnayim, in front of 2 people, and v'yayim b'fanei nechtam, and let him say now b'fanei nechtam. and then everything is good. So she could be married to this person. That's the machlekes here. Okay. Now here in the lashon of this brayse, it clearly said v'yitnenu lo b'fnei shnayim, like Rabbi Yochanan said, that you only need two and not a third. Okay, but now the Gemara asks on this brayse itself, Rab Meir. Now why is Rab Meir so stringent about this? Mishum deloy ama b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechta. Because the shliach originally, when he gave the get, he did not testify that it was written and signed in front of him. Yaitzi vavlad mamzer. Is that enough of a reason to say that now we say that this woman has to leave her marriage and the children will be mamzerim? The shliach may be here now, and the shliach is saying, let me just say b'fanei nechta right now. I'll say it now. Why do we say that that's too late? We know the fact is that the get was written and signed in front of him if he says it now. So why does Rab Meir say, because he didn't say it before, you can't correct it anymore, that's it, the children are mamzerim? Says the Gemara yes, Rab Meir is very stringent about this, because Rab Meir follows his reasoning that he said elsewhere, the Omar of Amnuna, Mishmei Dole. Rav Amnuna said in the name of Vule, Oime Hoyer Rab Meir would say, Kol HaMishana Mimadbeya Shetov Chachamim Begittin. Anybody that changes from the way Chachamim established a get should be given, and the testimony has to be the way it has to be said, and it has to be said dafka when you give the get, Yaitzi v'havlad mamzer. The get wasn't done the way Chachamim wanted, so then the get is not valid, and therefore if she's married to someone else, she has to leave him, and the children born are mamzerim. So this is the special stringency that Rab Meir said about this to this extent. But according to the Chachamim, you could still correct this. There's still, even after the fact, you can still take back the get and do it over again. Okay.